all of cinematic history is, I thought it was great the other day. I don't know if we can solve that easily. But this movie, The Matrix, the double agent guy, the one's like sort of, I forget, it doesn't matter the context, just the lines. He says he wants to be like sort of change his identity, and he says, I want you to make me someone important, like an actor. That's like the funniest line.
The whole world's a stage, so.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss.
But yeah, that's the scene, exactly.
I know this is
Okay, so I'm thinking about your question. Okay, so when we get done, I'm not going to give an answer to you. I'll at least give you some thoughts on the topic. First of all, when you ask the question why, like that kind of why, so really there's never going to be an answer, because it's like, it's not, you're saying Chazal, but it's not, it's Hashem. It's a pasuk from the Torah. Like, so why Hashem said make it, B'shach Hashem B'kumecha as opposed to some specific time on the clock?
Right.
So whatever the answer is going to be in the end, like it's Hashem's prerogative. It's like
so Christians really wanted the Torah say that.
Right. So I'm saying, so it's when they have a question like that, like, so what do you want? Like Hashem can say whatever he wants. Like that's step one. That's before you ask the question. Step two is I'm always wary of any question where you can always ask why it should be like that. In other words, the Torah would have said, say Kriya Shema between 9 and 7 a.m. Then you would say, well, why is that? People have different schedules. Why don't they make it based on social norms and when people get up in the morning? So like, when the question always, there's always, that question can always happen, right? So then always that question in my mind becomes less interesting. But I think there's something to be brought out from the question on this, nonetheless. I'm speaking on the top of my head, so like I don't take what I'm saying like, don't even record this if you don't want. Like, I don't know if this is like, because this is, I didn't think about it and research it, but I'm speaking off my, I'm not speaking off my head, but it's just off the top of my head thoughts. The Torah enumerates 6, in halacha, there are 6 halachic times that are governed by astronomical events. That would be Seis HaKohanim, Alos HaShachar, Mishiyakir, which we just had, is a separate story, like we can sell blue from white, our mission here. Nates, Chatzos, and Shkia. Those are the six like astronomical events that happen in the course of the day. Okay? Anything else you have is being based on hours of the day. So Mincha or Shachris, let's say, or Kriya Shema, the first 3 hours of the day. So it's modulated by that. So the start time will be, let's say Alos HaShachar or whatever. It's not, but I'm saying, let's say Shachris. So Dami Shachris, l'chachila you have from sunrise, nates, l'chachila, until the first 3 hours of the day. So it's governed on the one side by an astronomical event, sunrise, on the other hand it's governed by, let's say, the Gra, you just divide from sunrise to sunset and divide it into, the quarters. So with those 6 times that I told you, that they do govern halacha, I don't think any, I don't, off the top of my head, can't think of any Doraisa halachic events that's predicated on those times. In other words, except I guess the starting of the day. No, not Shema. No, I mean different thought. In other words, except for the fact that when a new day starts, a new day started, like let's leave that aside, that's the case. But nowhere in the Torah does it say when the sun is at midday or when the sun rises or when the sun sets, you should do such and such. There isn't such a thing like that. Shabbos comes in when it's Shabbos. So like, yes, of course, Seis makes a new day, and therefore then you have to bring in Shabbos. But that's you could argue I'm wrong, that's an exception to the rule. Shabbos isn't about when Seis comes out. That's not the point of Shabbos. Shabbos is the 7th day of the cycle, and it has to start sometime, and the starting time is Seis. You follow what I'm saying? There's no other place in the Torah that I can think of where it says, do such a thing at such a time. No, it doesn't work like that. Those are really all rabbinic constructs, I think. except for whole days. Nothing else comes to mind. they're rabbinic times, but they're rabbinic in nature. Even when the Torah says stuff like Bein Ha'arbayim, for example, so it's understood to mean like when the sun is tilting past midway, but it's not like, there's never like it never says at our equivalent at 7:55 p.m. do such and such. There's no such thing in the Torah. I think the reason why that would be the case, so it's a bit of a why, that would be a Shema kind of answer also, is because no one had wristwatches or clocks of any real nature until no one did until the 17th century. It didn't exist. There was a sundial, but the sundial is already from the time of Tanakh. There's a sundial in Torah, I told you, in Tanakh. But a sundial is only useful for like it is limited use, like as it is when the sun's up, and nothing. And it might be useful for like knowing the time is useful, but the Torah didn't. The world didn't. It wasn't accessible. No one. There might have technically been a sundial in some place at some time, but there wasn't like a sundial that everyone governed their lives around. It wasn't like that, and it never was like that. It never was like that until the earliest 17th century, and at that point, it was just for like mariners, people on boats. You needed to know the time exactly to read the star charts. People didn't have that. I don't know when people started using watches at times, but it was probably in the 18th century, right? So that's like the other day. That's like from that's like in terms of halachic significance. That's like after Shulchan Aruch. It's not kind of okay. And certainly before. Certainly, the Torah's world is way before them. So people didn't really have that kind of precision in their lives, and I don't believe for a second. I hope what I'm saying is not going to raise people's happiness, but I don't believe for a second that anyone. They knew you have to finish your Korban Pesach b'chatzos. I don't believe for 1 second that anybody on the whole planet was mindful of thinking, oh, that comes out to being like 12:04 a.m. I'm watching the clock. No such thing. Nothing like that. They just totally guessed it. Total guess. Approximation, basically your gut. They had no other way to do it. I don't believe for 1 second that Rashi had some sort of water clock ticking in his thing and said, oh shit, 6 hours are almost up. No way. No way. This is all just rough estimation. So like, you have to reframe yourself, because we have become like so, in the 21st century, we're so used to times, we know, like we have a luach, and everyone knows, and our watch starts synced by a central server, and there's an atomic clock there in Paris, and we all sync the same second. And therefore, when you say, okay, we want to say Yishabach at 5:47, 15 seconds, everyone nods their head, okay. Like, there's no way. We saw that, the Gemara we saw yesterday, or Thursday, Wednesday, must have Wednesday, we saw that Brona, this guy, he once in his life, managed to like step into an Esrei as the sun tip of the horizon. Like I was so happy because I was on all day long. That's what the Gemara said. In other words, that tells you the shot there is like to get it exactly right is like sheer luck. That's historical dart and hitting the bull. But they had no way to know the times exactly. And that, by the way, I should point out, if anything you can get good at it, it's guessing when the sun's going to rise because you know what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? You can watch the horizon. You know, when I woke up, like when I, for example, for last night, like say for Mariv, I know I look in the sky. I look in the sky and I'm watching to see when it's getting dark enough, and based on that, I assess when I should run off to. I don't worry about watching jobs. I don't worry about you. But anyways, and I look at the time to Mariv, I should say, multi-shops, which never works. I'm always late at night.
But
at least I have a glimpse, and I can walk around and say, oh, I'm definitely late or I'm definitely early, because I'm used to it. And that's how they did it. That's for sure they did it. They knew based on how much blue there is in the sky, how much orange is in the sky. It's about this time. And therefore.
It's always moving too. Like days are longer, days are.
It is longer. You can see when if you just start looking at it, you can see by the shade of blue in the sky, it's like it's around time. It's like the time they daven Marv. Usually used to because you're looking. That's how they operated, for sure. And
Rashi lived in a different part of the world too.
Yeah, okay, they all had their own world. I'm not saying I'm sure that was a little different than their world, indeed. But I'm saying, that's how they all operated. They all operated basically like just eyeballing it. And you see, there's so many Gemara dedicated to, what do you do on a cloudy day? It was a cloudy day, and they made a mistake, and they made a gzer never again because of cloudy days. See, cloudy days was a big problem for them at the time. They couldn't tell, is it clouds or is it dark? Really, you see many Gemaras like that.
Wow.
So like the whole thing isn't like that. The world wasn't like that, and people didn't have any notion of precision, accuracy. They kind of just like stayed in shul until the temple showed up, and they left. And we see more like that, like you better come early, and then you better wait till the last guy leaves, that kind of stuff.
If that's true, why don't we think that Hashem expected us to not be perfect with it?
Well, I think I guess because the answer to that question in general is that Hashem expects us to do our best.
Exactly.
And as I said, anything more than that. But once you've got a wristwatch, your best can become, in terms of time precision, can be much better. It's the same with all things. Like, guaranteed that no one in antiquity had, whoever's is the worst fill in the room, bias, I'm sure is better than the best fill-in you could get 1,000 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, because today they have these hydraulic presses that take these things and with like 10,000 pounds of square inch, make a box out of it. How did they do it in those days? Like this, or whatever, some version of doing this. So how square could it be? And they take a micrometer and they measure the ribu and they decide they have to eyeball it or whatever. Eyeballing it in the year 500 or 1500 meant you take a pencil and you say, oh, it's from here to here, and you say it this way, and then you try to see about it. They didn't have tools like we have at all. So no one could be expected to fill in that with anywhere near as precise as ours fill in. For example, there's just in equipment. But nowadays, you are a halachic slob. It's like you walk in, your tefillin is like a trapezoidal. Like, what are you doing? Just get tefillin, get them already. But there was also Shabbat. It's funny. I said actually a different context, but I said in the morning share I mentioned I once went to my 10 greats grandparents' house in Germany, and they had over the door they have like a capstone which said Laser Mindel lived here, whatever. Over the door, it was like first Jewish home in that town. Anyways, I laughed because it's set in stone there since the year whatever, 70 whatever, and there they couldn't fit the full Mindel, her name, on the block. So they just appended the lamed up to the side. It's like the funniest thing. It looks hilarious.
Yeah, it curves up like this or something?
No, it's I don't have a picture of it.
Just squeezed up.
They just shoved it in. They just put it lamed off to the side somewhere. But our eye looks just totally absurd. And they obviously invest. They're obviously rich people, and they invest. It has like an entrance. This entrance where the horse stable was. They were rich people obviously, and they could afford to make custom capstone, housing. And I guess it wasn't a big deal because how much precision do you expect in the 1800s? That's what happens, Whereas nowadays, if my third grader hands in justified laser printed homework, they're like, you're a slob, I'll do it again. It's funny, right?
Maybe there was a different story behind the lamed.
Maybe there's something else. Maybe who knows? But it sure looks funny. It looks sloppy. Even more than that, I saw this funnier story I saw once. I went to the kever of the Maharam in Rottenburg. He was the one who was held hostage and ransomed. He died in prison, and the neighbors ransomed him. Anyways, so on his kever, they're kind of telling the story of his life, and kind of ran out of space. It's the funniest thing. You see, it's like a postcard. They get that, it's writing squish, 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 and that's the end. I don't know if it's a mid-sentence, but you see, they didn't. It's hilarious. That was made. The person who redeemed them was obviously a gazillionaire. That was the story. The story was this guy Wimfin, said, "I'll redeem his bones for the king's ransom to be buried next to him," because they were holding his body hostage for a princely son. So he agreed to pay. So he obviously was some millionaire that agreed to pay this, whatever it is, $100,000 to get the body. So he had the money to pay $100,000 to get the body, but he didn't. I don't know if he didn't have the money, or either they didn't expect it, or there wasn't the wherewithal to do it, to make a decent gravestone. It's fun. That's how it is. So I think the same thing's going on. They were much more. I don't know if the word is chilled out and casual. I don't mean that. But they didn't have a havamina of precision like we do.
Also, the whole trend of the Gemara doesn't always mean exactly what it says. It doesn't, it's. That is a different point. It's also kind of chilled out approach.
Well, I think that's a little different. I think that might be an issue of. That's a different topic. But this is, maybe we'll discuss another time. But this is, I just don't think they had it in their consciousness to talk about time being a precision. It was just rough. It was just rough. I can't. I think we're too deep. We're too deep into a technological society where everything, when you take your groceries and you buy cucumbers, they weigh them and they charge you to the gram, right? They cost shekel 99 for the kilo, and they like weigh it out 3 decimal points. It's like hilarious. That's how we're used to. That doesn't seem strange to us. I mean, when I was a kid, and for sure when you were kids, we had like a metal balance. Like I remember, like it was like in a room. It had like 4 walls, so the wind shouldn't blow in it, and it was expensive, and you only could touch it if you had special glasses. One in the whole classroom to weigh 3 decimal places. I remember that in the chemistry lab.
We used my grandfather's store. We just had weights, you know.
Yeah, exactly right. You put the one little brick that says 100 grams, put it on this side, and you weigh in the pan, and as long as they're more or less equal. That's how it was. You see, the Torah makes a big stink about people who shave off their weights because they don't rely on that great weight. You know, it's a big thing if people have accurate weights. But that's one of their clothes. It's a big deal because they were relying on that. But that's as much precision as they had. No, that's how it was. So I don't think like for the Torah to say, I want you to say it, and give specific parameters. Just like incongruous, it doesn't make sense for their time and place. And meaning, and for all of human history, we're the weirdos. We're the weirdos who look at a watch and say like, whoa, I'm late, it's 9:01. Well, like, in the old days, I'm sure you can remember it as a child. Like, you just meet in the afternoon, lunchtime, I'll see you at tea time. Tea time meant like, 10 or 4 o'clock plus minus an hour. What do you want more precision than that? There's no cell phone saying I'm on my way and ways to tell you in minutes. And like you got a wristwatch, move it back to this time, to Torah, Chazal's time. It just wasn't like that. I think that's the real answer. I think that's the real answer. And I think if you would try to, this discussion would be nonsensical to someone living any more than 250 years ago. Like what do you want the Torah to say? It says in the morning time say Shema, in the evening say Shema. Like what else? What kind of more do you want than that? And then the rabbis are trying to say, well, exactly when is the morning time? And that is like, that's the nature of Rabbinic Judaism. Well, that's a very loaded term. But the nature of Chazal is to try to say, well, because there's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, like, at what point does the nighttime for Kriyat Shema begin? And they want to try to pin it down. They become very, Talmudic, which also becomes quite a pejorative, right? They want to really say, well, could you call... Like we saw Sugya. Well, what happens about if it says when you get up? What about when it's starting getting light outside, but we're still sleeping in their beds? What about weird people like aristocracy who sleep till the first third of the day, like fourth of the day? How do those count? So, but they're talking about first fourth of the day. They're not talking about when people get up and they feel like getting out of the bed. It's rough. That's the Torah works in general. And yeah, that's it. I think it's like that across the board. Across the board, I think it's very hard for us to get in our mind into that because we're so used to precision. Precision is a modern phenomenon. Really, I think it's a modern phenomenon. Anyway, that's the answer to your question. So
it seems that it's not a Jewish thing to keep somebody waiting. It's in you're not valuing his time if you just.
Okay, that's true, but
I'll come there,
Yeah, but there's
when I get there.
Right, but look how they measure time. They measure time. You see that Chazal, when they want to measure time in minutes, we actually haven't seen any studies that like this, I don't think, but we will get to them. There are plenty. You'll see that. You'll show them before. They measure it in how long it takes to walk a certain distance.
Right.
Which is very strange. But that was the best they had. They could divide it into millim. A mil is like a 2,000 amos, and however long it is. That's like 18 minutes. That's the most acceptable weight definition. So that was the most that was the most. If you want to talk about I'll be there and if someone took time, you measure it based on how long it takes to walk there. You understand? That was the best because they knew how to measure time directly. It was indirect. I'm sure when Chazal. I told you this, we saw in Chlok about Rega. Where was that? What daf was the Rega discussion?
Oh, right.
What was the Rega discussion?
Hashem's anger.
Yeah, what was that? What daf was it on? You remember?
Zion.
Yes? No, Zion? How do you remember Zion? Actually, not Zion. What do you think of Zion?
Absalom, is pointing the gun at David Melech and the Kadosh HaKadoshim, and
in his moment of anger. That's right. In his moment of anger.
Right.
That's right. In his moment of anger. That's the moment of anger. That's the whole time. So exactly. So I'm sure that we started doing the math and started figuring out 16ths of seconds and trying to figure out. I don't know what it means exactly, but that's very weird Gemara. That's not normal, right? Normally they certainly had the mathematical technology.
That's right, it does reference.
Yeah. That's very unusual. And then we even saw a steer between, they said how long it takes to say the word rega, and then the time, maybe it's not really reconcilable, maybe it's different results, maybe it's, because it doesn't actually work.
That was added later, right? Who said there was
Ours was 58, 1 over 5, 8888,
Right.
15,000.
Right.
There's another Gersa which was 24 times 24 times 24, which is like 16,000, whatever, 1 over 16,000, like a quarter of a second. We said that's more likely because rega, you could say 2 syllables perhaps, you could say 8 syllables in a second. But that's weird, that Gemara is very unusual. They didn't have the mathematical technology to deal with this stuff. In other words, like when they talk about if you go to the Sukkot in Rosh Hashanah, they talk about how a month is. So you see, they define a month as 29 days, 12 hours, and 793 chalakim. A chalak is a 1 part in 1,080 of an hour. So it's like 3 1/3 seconds. So they did have technology. But that was just a mathematical. In other words, if you're planning a calendar, you can in theory, mathematically figure out how long, how often we can have leap years and leap days, because you can see that we need to keep things squared away. But in terms of actual real life, they had no idea when X number of halakim are passing. They had no tool to determine that. It was just a mathematical. Like we do that too. And now we do it just in fractions of a second. I don't think you and I do it very often, but if you're a sound engineer or certainly a rocket engineer, you're worried about like tiny fractions of a second to sync the times of the tape, let's say sound engineer, or to figure out when to send it to the moon, or rocket engineer. And they're using precision that they can know about theoretically, and that computer deals with. But in real life, we of course are on a tenth of a second is like a joke, let alone 100th of a thousandth of a second. We mean anything to us. We know that thousands of seconds exist. We don't think in those terms, so they're silly. So I think Chazal thought seconds and minutes are kind of silly. Who works in that kind of precision? Silly. They exist mathematically, but in real life, that's what I think. But again, that's my conjecture.
It's amazing that they got such a precise length of the month that until NASA landed on the moon, they
Yes.
weren't able to, and our precision was even more accurate. It was
Right.
like 5 decimal places or whatever.
Right. That's correct.
That's really
It's
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that was from Pasuk. How did they know it?
I don't know how they know it. I don't know how they know it. So I suspect. I don't know the answer to your question. I believe that secular scholars believe that the Babylonians had it, and they got it from them. The Babylonians had a calendar also with precision. I suspect that someone probably thinks we got rid of Masorah, and maybe we did. Maybe the Babylonians got it from us. I don't know. But that they did in that time. I mean, long ago, they did know that they did have accurate measurements. They were really fascinated by the stars. I don't know. They meaning all of the ancients were fascinated by the stars, and they did measurements. They spent a lot of time measuring things, so you can measure over time. You can't get that precise in 1 month, but you can get precise year over year. So you can start then you do the math to divide. So each point is correct. That the tradition that the Rambam brings, the halacha, basically Mar Rosh Hashanah, in terms of the length of the lunar month. Yeah, the lunar month as it's observed, meaning from the new moon to the moon. There was no observational confirmation of that accuracy until 1977. The actual scientific observation couldn't be that precise until 1977. And even then, as you said, the number 77 was actually not as accurate as the total. Seriously, they knew what do you call them? The Egyptians knew about 365-day calendar and stuff. That was a big deal to them. They wanted to know when I was in the flood, etc. So the moon was a big deal to us. So we made it our business to measure the moon. Or the Babylonians, or both of us, independently of us, made a big difference to us. But remember, it only really made a big difference to us. Because we take our religion seriously, but it actually didn't come into play until they standardized the calendar to a great degree. Chazal knew when the new moon was going to happen before it happened. but they didn't declare it until they saw it. There's also some stories of Rosh Hashanah. There's some famous stories that Rabbi Joel, who basically said, I know what should be happening in the sky, therefore I'm ignoring the testimony, or whatever. In any case, yes. Okay, so my headache didn't go away despite that interesting conversation.
All right.
It's been a nice try, thank you very much. Okay, so I want to do just a bit of a review. I want to try to keep it together. We'll do a big review on Shavuos night as a show. Yeah, we'll do a few things. Okay. Every day I'm telling you, I think write these down and send them to you. Today's my day. Okay, some interesting Gemaras. Where do we see the Gemara say you shouldn't take a Birkat Hediyat, a regular person's blessing, lightly? This is our Sunday talk. Where do you see the Gemara say you shouldn't take a Birkat Hediyat, lightly? What is that?
I didn't hear the question.
Then where does the Gemara, our Gemara, where does it say you should not take a Birkas Hediyot, a regular person's blessing,
Oh, blessing.
lightly? You should take his blessing, his bracha, seriously. Where do we see that? Remember the context? Remember how they came up? Who's blessing whom? I said, oh.
Yeah.
No. Where did it come? Someone gave a blessing. Hashem asked someone for a blessing. Hashem asked someone for a blessing. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was on Yom Kippur, and his name was Rabbi Joel ben Elisha Kohen Gadol. He was in the Kaddish Kodashim, that Dav Zion, that the Kaddish Kodashim of the Dav Zion of Shalom is gone. He was pointing it. In our mnemonic, it's of Shalom, the Kaddish Kodashim, pointing gun and Dav. But on Zion, on the face, I think, it says, no, Zion and Aleph, I should say. Hashem said, right, barking into me, exactly right. Where it says here from there, you shouldn't take a purpose to hate lightly. Where do we see, okay, good. Where do we see, the Gemara says, that you should train your tongue to say, I don't know, lest you get caught out and shown to be a liar. Remember that? What was that? What was the context of that before I get to that up? Remember? What did the Gemara say? Learn from this, you should always train your tongue to say, I don't know. Maybe you get caught out and don't be a liar. Remember that? Context? That was, remember that? David and Melech. Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't want to say, that's right, Kuchatzos. That's right, because he was afraid that it's the meaning of Pharaoh's astrologers. Right, would say, you said midnight, nothing happened, you're a liar. So the Gemara, so that's, where was that? Remember where the Gemara was? David is on Daf. David, that's right. Exactly. Good. Okay, how about, where do we learn that Hashem praises himself with the praise of the Jewish people? He praises himself with the praise of the Jewish people. Daf Vav. What's the context? Where do we learn that Hashem praises himself? Hashem's tefillin. Exactly right. It's on Daf Vav, because Reb Zera was away with the stick behind the base of Sheikh behind the shul. We're digging up Hashem's tefillin. That's right. Right. Exactly right. Very good. Very good. And where do we see that you should always pray that you find a bathroom when you need it?
In the last one.
What was the context? Well, actually, no. Was it the last one? No. It was near the last. Wasn't the last? Remember what it was? What daf was it? That's what we went before that?
Before.
Test. How do you remember
one
that?
of the possibilities for the expression
Ace Matzah.
finishing or something?
Ace Matzah, you should praise the thing in the time that you need it. Find the thing when you need it.
Finding it.
Find it.
You need
So, yeah, so we have the daf test. How do you remember from our mnemonic? Because remember the man, because we were finding a lot, so you had a lot of things. You should pray for the bathroom, pray for a wife, pray for a proper burial, pray for, so we said that that was, the ches was the guy who finds his, who finds his wife in the chuppah, being a little bit of the three Chanukias, the talis. he found his wife in the sukkah because that was the first thing there. Pray, matzah motzet. Did you find the present tense or past tense? Because some wives you find them you find good, and some say you found them. I find my wife bitter than Mar. Mar and Mav is bitter than evil, bitter than death, bitterer than death. So that was on Daf Ches, because Ches was Chanukiyah, and in the Chanukiyah he found his wife, and then he found love against him. But that's how it works. It's a powerful tool. Okay, I'll do another one. Where do we see that we saw Amanda Amr that said, where do we see if a person sees Yisur and Ba'alav, you see something bad coming your way, so you fashbish b'masav, you should examine his ways. When a person sees suffering coming his
I
way.
think it was to see why he was suffering with the oil, his wine turned to vinegar.
Okay, that's a different. So that's Rabbi Joel. That's a different. So that's the same daf, which is daf hay, like you said, because hay was suffering. That was suffering of Yochanan on the haystack.
And I stuck.
Yes, and then it said we discussed many different kinds of suffering, really tend towards Yisur Mishal Alva. But before that, indeed, we had Rav Huna, his wine turned to vinegar, and we had before that precursor of that story was if something bad's happened to you, it's for a reason. You should try and figure out what you did wrong. I told my kids that was the central message of Chukosai. That when a person's that you shouldn't react to Hashem but carry. You should see if something bad happens because Hashem's trying to get your attention. You shouldn't ignore it. That's what the Gemara said. And what did the Gemara say? If you did nothing wrong, you can figure nothing wrong. So what should you figure you did? Well, there's a step before. Yes, and if you did nothing wrong and you're suffering, so you should ascribe it to. Remember? It was 9 was on ascribe it to. Bittul Torah. So that you're not wasting time, not studying you could study. But if that doesn't make sense, then it must be Yisur Shalom. That was how that Gemara flowed. And then we said if you one who studies is Rish Lakish said one who learns Torah, Yisur is Badilin Hamedu, suffering goes away from him. We have this Torah. And then we said that made me start understanding. Then we said Yochanan had said, what are you talking about? Everyone knows that if you do the Torah, the bad things will happen to you, because that was the pasuk. Every school kid knows it, that Hashem will, if you keep the Torah, Hashem will bring the machlas and they brought to Mitzrayim. So then Rabbi Yochanan said, no, if you it's not if you do learn Torah, push the suffering away, but even if you don't learn Torah, which you could, then suffering, ugly suffering, mukha'arin, ugly suffering comes your way. Good. Good to read these things. What else did we see? We saw where do we see that you shouldn't go into a dangerous place to pray? Of Gimel, right? That's good. Very good. The over there with 3 camels. Good. Okay, where do we see that it's worse to have a kid off the derech, Tarbus Ra, exact translation. Tarbus Ra Beso, a kid that didn't socialize properly, that's worse than Gogamago, Kasha, more difficult to deal with Gogamago. What was that? Aleph? Dalet? You think that because of David Melech?
Yeah.
Good guess, but that's no. Wasn't it? You're right, because what happened to David Melech? David Melech in Zion, because of why? It's a mnemonic. How do you know?
Because
It's
Avshalom.
That's right, about Avshalom. There's a story. You start out by saying, remember David Melech, when Avshalom, he said, whoa, Marav, it's alright. How bad is my suffering? And when it came to Gogamago, he said, why are they chit-chatting so much for all this stupid stuff? So he sees worse. And then from there we start talking about Avshalom and why David say Mizmor, not Kina, and all that kind of stuff. He said, good. So he's a lot.
So we just have to remember the relationship between David and Avshalom.
Right. Okay, now one more. We'll move on. Where do we see, this was going to get us to the topic here today. Where do we see someone try to kill his neighbors because they were bothering him excessively? Someone try to kill their neighbors because they were bothering him excessively?
That's also an example, no?
Daf Zayin, there was a story.
Because of the Stuki.
His wife
That's right, the
said-
Stuki, that's right. When Shulman Levi was, the Stuki next door was making him crazy, and he tried to put a rooster by his bed and blast him.
And he fell asleep.
And he fell asleep at that moment, and he heard it, that's not, it's not good behavior. It's like derech eretz, it's not derech eretz, it's to kill your Stuki neighbors. That's what it said, it's funny. Shema Minah love Orach Hara, look, see, it says, Amar Shema Minah, learn from this, love Orach Hara, Lemei V'rachi, it's not nice to do this kind of thing. And because Barachma will Masa, even Hashem's mercy is on all his creatures. It's a funny more. Anyway, so we're holding a daf, okay, that's good. We hit every daf. Where does the pasuk say, Vayi Erev Vayi Boker? Where does the Gemara say? We saw that pasuk, Vayi Erev Vayi Boker. Why make sure we do every daf?
Says,
A test? I don't think so. The pasuk Vayi Erev Vayi Boker did it come up in the Gemara? Somewhere already. On daf base. The base came up. We asked Tana Eicha Koi, like those opening. Why are we starting with Me'imasai? And we said, well, because it says, and Basu, sorry, question one, Tana Eicha Koi, why are we starting with Me'imasai? Basu, and second of all, why are you starting with the night before the day? And the answer, well, but it says, the first answer was because it's Uvashach B'cha, going to bed, Uvakumecha, getting up, which answers both questions. And the second answer was, Ibosema, we're not forced by the pasuk, I call this the maximus position, you're not forced by the pasuk to explain, what the pasuk means, but at least night comes before day because everything in the Torah is that way. Be'er be'boker. So that's that. But that was base. I'm going to make sure we did some every time. We did base, we did gimel, we did dalit, we did hay, we did vav, we did zayin, we did ches. Yeah. Oh, and test. Oh, sorry. Test. Okay. Well, that gives away. Well, remember the mnemonical test? The mnemonical test, we didn't actually crystallize it. It's a test, teapot.
At the Seder table.
That's, yeah.
And they're pouring
What kind of-
blue and white.
That's right, blue and white teapot. Pouring at the Pesach Seder
And then
with
you've got
the.
Gold and silver.
That's right. Gold, silver, Caleb. Maybe the sun rising there for once, and the Jews and the Egyptians are running amok. I'll have to crystallize the exact words to make those feel possible. But yeah. So what was on the top? Let's do the market. What was?
And the blue and white teapot is the discussion of the Tchelis.
So that's right. So blue and white was the Tchelis. What was Tchelis all about? How did Tchelis fit on the page? The time that you can say. That's right. That's your
In the
Shema. And there was a month of Amr, by the way, that said it's not Shema time. It's actually Tefillin time. Remember that? It was a slide point, but you should see it. You can't sort of.
And this all wraps it up, the new mission.
Right, exactly. That's
Yeah.
the new mission. We're in a new mission. That's a new mission. If you look, I'll point it out to you. The test is important. I didn't emphasize it very much, but it's a halacha l'maisa, so I don't know. I want to bring that to your attention. So if you look in Daf Tessim base, the medium lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down the medium lines. The first one line is 7 lines down it says litzafilin.
Yeah.
So you go back up one line. So in fact, if you go up 3 lines, so it says Tanya. The first one line there is Belelia. So if you go to the word Tanya forward to the end, the Brisa says Ramei Omer Mishyaka ben Zev lekelev. Instead of blue and white, he says, wolves and dogs, or Bekiva Omer Chamor l'Arod, from wild asses to domesticated donkeys. V'acherim Omrim Mishira es Chavero Richu Amos v'Yekireno in the Brisa. Rabbi Acherim, which is Rameir ostensibly, I told you the problem with that, but whoever it was, he said it's when you can recognize your friend you don't know so well from 4 amos away, that's enough light, and that's then the Brisa, and that's the halacha. But then Amar Rav Huna, halacha ka'acherim, he says the halacha is like acherim, like I just told you, that's Rav Huna, and Abaye argues, Amar Abaye, he says l'tefillin ka'acherim. So I didn't emphasize that enough, I'm doing it right now, emphasizing it. Abaye is saying the earliest time you can put on your tefillin is Misha Yakir, when you can recognize your friend, or blue from white, and the Kriya Shvat's kavasikin. I focused on the vasikin part, but then he said it's better to say Kriya Shema later, closer to the sunrise. That's what vasikin is, so you can do so with the tefillah, 6 minutes before or whatever. But anyways, the halacha, they're both true. The halacha, earliest time for Kriya Shema would be when you can see Misha Yakir on that Look, let's look at here. Sure. On it just says here in the Luach, you can't read it, it doesn't matter. It says your date, and the next thing it says Amud Shachar, and then the next line says Zman Sitzis U'Tfilin. That's this. Zman Sitzis U'Tfilin is Mishayakir, where you can recognize that you will remind your friend from the Alamos, because we're not going to talk about the Sof on Kriya Shema until after that. Then Beit Chacham comes next. I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, according to this checklist, today is Chavches, so they have 556. Okay, cool. 556 is the Nates and Nira, and 446 is the Zman for Tefillin. So we're pushing it back. It's a little misleading. We're pushing it back there 60, 70 minutes. But the truth is, it's a little misleading. The Nates, Hachama, the astronomical Nates is 544, and 446, so it's 58 minutes before, is the Tefillin earliest time. That's Mishayakir. But as Amud Shachar was like 25 minutes before that. 26 minutes before that. Okay, cool. So, that's that. Okay, so test. So the teapot was because of the test. Blue and white because it's Tefillin and white. Gold and silver vessels. What was gold and silver vessels?
Is what they took from the Mitzrayim.
That's right. And Hashem.
No.
Please. That's right. No, exactly. Please do me a favor. Why was it a favor to Hashem?
So that Avram Avinu would have time.
That's right. He promised to leave Rechush Gadol and he didn't want to lie. That's right. And the Jews were not that interested. They said, just let us out here, we'll be happy. So that's right. And why is it? What's Pesach? Why is it Pesach? Say it. Why want Pesach in there? Korban Pesach. Over there, Korban Pesach. They're pouring their tea. What was the Korban Pesach doing on the dog? It's a big piece. Big.
It has to do with the Zaman by the time you can finish it.
That's right. So the question I'll remind you, this piece is important, and it's like central to the dog. The Gemara had a big problem, which was this is the very end of the first Mishnah. We're wrapping it up, and we say, the Gemara said, wait a second. The Mishnah said that there are a bunch of things that really the Torah says you can have till the morning, but the rabbi said finish by midnight to keep people from crossing the line. And we discussed the first half of today. It's hard to know at night when you cross the line, so they said keep it at midnight to sort of give them a push to be estimated early. So the Gemara, and it lists all of them. It says burning the fat from limbs, and Kriya Shema, burning fat from limbs, but there's something else. Oh yeah, so and all the food must be eating of the korbanos that had to be eaten in one day. Yom Echad had to be eaten Midoraisa by the morning, but Midorabbanan by Chatzos. So the question is, the Gemara asked, the test was, okay, you've got a list of all the things that have to be done by Chatzos, Midorabbanan, what about the Korban Pesach? Because we have a Baraisa that has Korban Pesach, Midoraisa in the morning, Midorabbanan after Chatzos. And the Gemara answered, well, it's Machlok to 9, and that's all very nice. So you say you have till the morning, but actually, according to many people, you have just till Chatzos Midoraisa. So therefore, it's not a Mishnah. That's why the Pesach is in our teapot story. To remember the Pesach issue. And around them is the Jews and the Egyptians running chaotically. Chipazon, what's that all about?
You see different times.
That's right.
It's Machlokes when you have to leave.
That's right. So Machlokas over the deadline for eating your Korban Pesach was dependent upon the fact that Torah says you have to eat it b'chipazon. And they understand at the shat chipazon, the time of the panic. Let's go chipazon panic. It means a rush. Time of the rush. That's right. Because the Egyptians were rushing at midnight,
And we're leaving.
and we're rushing in the morning. And Machlokas there depends on what's left. Good. Okay. Excellent. Good. It's worth it. Believe it's worth it. Okay, good. So, now, the test on the base at the bottom, I'm moving on a little bit. So, the last thing we had said, we'd sort of got this discussion that there's a machlokas about where to break up the first two tehillim. Is the first two really one tehillah or two tehillim? And we said, the Gemara ended up saying it's actually both what we call Kapitel Aleph and Kapitel Bet, Parak Aleph, Parak 1 and Parak 2, are really part 1a and part 1b, and the proof there was that Asher at the beginning, Asher at the end. And I told you that, like the halacha, we go with the Bali and Masorah, that it's actually 2, if you have it. In any case, along the way, we brought a proof to show that there's a miscount, because the Brisa said that it was the end of Kapitel 103 that Hashem first said Halukah. And our Brisa is 104. But the pasuk, the end of, but I'll tell 104 now, because that's how we have it. So the pasuk says, pasuk? Yeah, so the pasuk says, "Yitamu chata'im min haaretz u'rishayim od einam," like the sin deceased in the land, and they'll never again be wicked people. Barachi nafshi es Hashem haluka, like praise my soul haluka. So that's the story. So the Gemara now in Daf Yud is like just picking up on that loose end and saying, oh, that pasuk about the story, it has to do with this, the pasuk of Yitamu Chatam in Arts, the ceasing of sin from the land, and Rishon Oneinam, there's no more wicked people. So that's the story. So here in line 4 of Daf Yud, this is a new story about someone trying to kill their neighbors, not what we had before of Daf Zayin and Rabbi Joel Padowitz, but here it's Daf Yud, it's Reb Meir. Haneu biryone dahavu v'shem v'husa der Meir. There were certain biryone, Rashi understands them to be just like pritzim, like vilifiers, off of their kids. I don't know, wild kids, wild people. Different from Shatan, but anyways, they're no good nicks, and we'll see from the Gemara that they're super low lives. Or we should be on tape.
Yeah, we're on.
We've been on for hours and hours.
Yeah. Since the beginning.
Since the beginning.
This is line 4 after.
Since the off the record comment, or not off the record. But sorry, what?
Line 4 after.
I think we should start the tape now. If anything, make 2 recordings. Like if someone who actually wants to get to the Gemara, it's not fair to wait 57 minutes.